Hello and welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. There's a lot of different things that happened this week, so we're not going to waste any time and get stuck in right away. Firstly, before I talk about the bigger news this week, we have to establish something. For the past 4 weeks, I've been saying we're back to $58,000 per Bitcoin, we're breaking apart, maybe we're dipping a little bit. But it seems like this level is just the base we're at now, because also this week, at least when I'm recording it on Thursday morning, we're back to 58K. Ergo, the 58K gang is back in control. But this doesn't come with a surprise, because earlier last week, or I should say at the end of the week, earlier this week, we saw Bitcoin dip hard. This was down to mainly one reason. The DOJ, the Department of Justice in America, started an investigation into NVIDIA. Jobs reports last week weren't not as bad as anticipated, but also not pretty good. So you sort of had a mid-level thing where people went, nah, it's just government doing its thing and people are getting jobs, yes, but the economy is still not doing great. So there was a lot of uncertainty. Then the announcement of the Department of Justice came. NVIDIA was being investigated. Tech stocks just dropped like a hot stone. And at the end of the day, a lot of investors seem to believe that Bitcoin is associated with tech stocks, which we know it obviously isn't. It is a different animal. However, in the looks of most people, it is. And therefore, you also saw a lot of selling, especially on exchanges, taking place. The Bitcoin price dipped. A unique chance again for hodlers to buy the dip, which we've also seen at Relai. And then on the other hand, everything just recovered again. And again, at today, when I'm recording this, we're back to 58,000. So currently, Bitcoin seems very boring. And when things are boring, it's starting to get interesting, let's say. Because this week, we've also seen a report by the Federal Reserve of Pennsylvania. Remember, you have the big Federal Reserve of the United States, and then you have various Federal Reserves across the whole country, New York, Pennsylvania, all of the likes. And they've mentioned that they've done a survey amongst people in the state, asking how is their opinion towards cryptocurrency. They obviously put Bitcoin in the same basket. We know Bitcoin is number one. There is no second best, and Bitcoin's not crypto, but that's a different topic. And they've done that each quarter since 2020. And now they've released a report going from, in 2022, we observed that the sentiment towards this is that 24.6% of the people we surveyed said that they have an allocation or are interested in crypto. And now fast forward to 2024, it's only 14.7%, indicating interest is going down and all of these things. And there's two issues with that. Firstly, surveys are always very dependent how you ask people. If I tell to you, do you hold Bitcoin or have you heard of Bitcoin? Totally different question, but on the outside, it looks like, oh yeah, this is maybe more or less or more positive or more negative. And then secondly, it's also very geographically influenced. If you only ask people in the countryside, or if you take a very condensed place like New York, for example, you do have different outcomes and you have different groups and different sizes determining the different percentages. Obviously, percentages are from 0 to 100, but you get what I mean. If you ask 1 million people and 25% say yes, or if you ask 100 people and 25% say yes, it's a different outcome. So we're in this weird phase where Bitcoin is boring for most people. There is, I wouldn't say FUD starting, but you're starting to notice this from central institutions, we're putting crypto aside, Bitcoin aside. It's not as big as you think. It's a bubble. This is what we always hear. But if you actually take a look at what's going on, you might be surprised, because although Bitcoin is boring in terms of price, there is a lot of great stuff happening as well. And that leads us to the main news of the week, where TEPCO, one of the biggest, if not biggest, energy business in Japan, has announced that they created a subsidiary called Agile Energy X, which is an energy company that has a lot of renewable energy, mainly solar energy, and a couple of other energy sources as well. And they're going to use that stranded energy to mine Bitcoin, because they've observed that they have an issue in monetizing that leftover energy. It's renewable, it's green, it's everything that you want it to have according to the energy industry. However, you have the issue of it not being monetizable. People can't actually sell it fast enough, or they have to sell it at a high price, so people don't buy it, and all of these issues. And they've realized, hey, if we just plug in ASICs, first of all, we're going to help out the mining ecosystem by turning on more renewable energy. So the Fudsters at Greenpeace and all of these institutions, they can basically go on and not make their arguments anymore. And on the other hand, for the energy company itself, they can monetize that energy. And if they do it cleverly, if they're not selling the Bitcoin, if they're only maybe selling portions to break even on their costs, because renewable energies are obviously much more cheaper than other energy sources, and they're keeping portions of the Bitcoin on their balance sheet, they can actually also follow the MicroStrategy playbook and stock up the company. And this is a fascinating development you see a lot of all the places in the world, from Africa to now Asia to even Europe, where you got it in Scandinavia, South America. Energy cheap countries are starting to realize it's not of value for us to sell this cheap energy to big energy companies or even to countries who are starting to do import-export business. It makes more sense to plug in ASICs and utilize Bitcoin mining, proving A, that it's not a climate waster, and B, it is a very versatile tool for energy grids and companies to have. So looking forward, the more use cases we see like this, the more likely it is that Bitcoin is starting to creep into different business sectors and increasing adoption as well. I don't want to make the video any longer. I want to leave you on this bullish quote. So Bitcoin is boring, yes, but there's stuff happening in the background and more people are getting into different business use cases. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like, a comment, or just say hello below. And I look forward to seeing you next week again.